Namaskara and welcome to BIC Talks, a podcast by Bangalore International Centre, bringing you conversations that move, inform, and encourage discourse.
Jeet Thayil's anthology, The Penguin Book of Indian Poets, came out in April. This book is the culmination of a project he began 20 years ago with a special supplement for Fulcrum, a poetry annual out of Boston. That was followed by 60 Indian poets and the Bloodaxe book of contemporary Indian poets. This anthology, the final iteration, encompasses 75 years of Indian poetry in English. At 908 pages, it is voluminous and exhaustive, with 94 poets from all over the world. The poets of the Indian canon include Ezekiel, Kolatkar, Souza, Das, Mehrotra, Ramanujan, Jussawalla, but so are vital newer voices such as Vijay Seshadri, Vahni Capildeo, Bhanu Kapil, Daljit Nagra, Rajiv, Mohabir, and Raena, Shirali, among many others. This episode of BIC Talks is an extract from an in-person event that took place in late April 2022. And now, over to the poets.
I'm Hoshan, and I'm reading from my new book, Paradise Isn't Artificial. I'll read 3 poems. The first one is The Father-Mother Archetype. 1. Christ meets Peter after the resurrection. Peter is old. Christ is reborn, rejuvenated, young. He clasps his oldest disciple to his breast. When you were young, you wore clothes you liked and went wherever you wished. But now, in old age, you will put out your hands like a child to be dressed in clothes others wish you to wear, to be led where they want you to go. Peter clasped Jesus for long and wept like a child. 2. Mary found Christ dead. It was left to her to clean up the mess. After that, he gave that spectacular show, the resurrection, to dazzle the world and time. It wasn't the first time she was left alone. At the foot of the Mount of Olives, he told her, "Woman, what are you to me?" At the resurrection, he told the other Mary, "Touch me not." Women had become touch-me-nots. But at 15, Mary felt the womb stir. She took on world blame to birth God's Son. Then she must have felt so alone and so frightened. The Woman Canto. Such a confusion of characters within a sweet mother's slip, smelling of rosemary, lavender, and thyme. My mother, your mother, Christ's mother Mary. What a confusion of names. Do not go gently away from me, mother, this April. This is Pasolini at 40. Really, a little boy lost at 4, and Maria Callas, his substitute sister. The Vatican Pieta having my sister's sorrowing face. The intensity of love, incestuous between mother and son, brother and sister. What can the Communist Party do before bourgeois perversion? No wonder Pound was so enraged so long at that Friuli fag. He was a sinewed Idaho lad. No Circe for him. Did Hilda Doolittle know that? Let it be said, he was sweet, he sent her some money, but Shakespeare, who could withstand that name if one really had a literary sweet tooth? Thus our teacher to us and Mr. Joyce and Mr. Pound. Ah, the climbing notes of Olga's violin de gamba played between the legs, gentle murmurio, the buzzing of bees on honeysuckle. Also, two women under one roof, the ideogram for war in China and everywhere. How many Marys were there really? Let's start counting. Christ's Mother Mary, Magdalene at the foot of the cross, the Black Mary, who sold herself on board to reach the Holy Land, thus the Apocrypha. That is, books people don't really read, like Pound's Cantos, nor believe, like this one, my dear reader. I kid you not. One day, very white, Alba he'd stay. Old Ezra rose to see at Pomona Persephone flee right before his eyes, some hotly flushed ardent lover of theirs. The air lay heavily scented, and through the haze he could distinctly see pale carnage in white fields. This is a definition of love. A lady asks me in love season the reason of wild feelings, so proud that it is named love itself. Those who deny love can hear the truth now, because I speak to those in the know, having no hope that the rational and the low can see or believe it without proof. I have no will to give any proof or say how it is born, what its virtue and power, its being and its fickleness, or its height by which it's called to love, or if it can be seen at all by eyes. If memory survives, love is the Lord of light, shadowed by a shade. From Mars, war's God, with whom it dwells and creates a creature full of feeling called love, which is a behavior not of the body, but soul, as long as the heart wills it. It comes from a seen body, and once understood, it stays in the mind, but it has no weight nor stability. It does not decline in quality, but shines. It is its own effect forever and always, and no one can counterfeit its face. Love is not virtuous, but it is perfect. This perfection is not imagined by the mind, but felt in a lived life, I say. No one can save love nor judge it. If the intention is fine, love is fine. The intention cannot be judged by reason, it being reason's equal in love. And love is poor in judgment, hence it is judged a weakness. Love's power can only be proved by lovers' deaths, but if you don't die, love cannot be proved. Death is not love's opposite, but death, unlike love, isn't perfect because death leaves things half done. Love is not accident, and its power is eternal. Even if love is unremembered, it stays. It comes when the feelings are excessive and twisted out of nature. It does not rest, but is always moving, changing moods, laughing or weeping, twisting the face in fear, restless. It is found only with the deserving. Its strangeness makes men sigh, asking man to look at a trace formed in the mind, causing such mental anguish as to arouse excitement. The uneducated cannot imagine love. It does not go to them, but draws them to its still center. It does not go looking for lovers. Lovers come looking for it, and does not try to prove itself in big ways or small. It pleases itself with like people. It makes seeming happiness look certain, nor can it hide being ever so near. His pain pierces, yet men follow this beautiful pain that hurts, because this pain is right for right men. Love has no face. Seen in a white light, it becomes everyone and everything. This is love's aim. If we hear it, we can't see it. It is as if we follow a spirit. It is separated from body and colors, and like light is separate from darkness, and darkness separate from light, yet one defining the other. So love is set off from falseness. Love is for those worthy of trust, and it is merciful. Go, my poem definition, as you will, to where you want to. You are so beautiful that only the clever will understand you, and you will have nothing to do with the others. Thank you.
My mother came home one day without her uterus. The doctor took it out. My mother came home one day without her uterus. The doctor took it out. Like someone heard me say, let's act it out. Act it out physically. I was the baby who never cried. The snake on your breast who stung you dry, the vicious pet, and yet you held. I shot past her knees, past her hips, past her breasts, past her shoulders, way past those wisps of hair, those rays of gray hair radiating from her shrunken head. She had to look up to speak to me. She had to have wide eyes. Life begins when the children are out of the house and the dog is dead, I said. She laughed, dyed her hair black, made me stay. Time brings children. They burn holes in our stomachs, pop our belly buttons. Death makes sense. Weightless in your sticky fluids, too long you kept me in. My name is Mani. That was a poem from the late 80s when I was in my early 20s. I'm just going to hop across my writing life. The next few very short poems are several years later. This poem is from Living Shadows, 2000. Disappeared into his shadow, the man without a shadow. The shadow had a person. Don't let your shadow find another person. Folding his shadow on his arm, he went. From Echolocation, 2003. Arranged again in parallel lines, my bare feet face the door, welcoming the railroad of time, space. But death is not interested when I am. I wake up like a dancer into a familiar rehearsed position. The boatman has vanished, leaving the oars, and I am inflating unstoppably into my hollows, shoes, clothes, pen. And a poem from Ghostmasters, 2010. Address. Every evening the trees inhale birds swirling back home like a warm shawl. But I still wait for my perch in your arms. Like a peg I would hold so lightly the sheets of your night flights. We would travel in one mind, your old lands, my new skies, and every morning you would breathe me fly. The next poem is called 5-Word Poem, and this is the poem for which I really have to look. those love cannot leave alone. I hope you're counting. Cannot love, leave those alone. Cannot leave alone, love those. Leave those cannot love alone. Those cannot leave love alone. And the next is a fragment from a poem called Hall, which is a poem about writing. But it's really also about sleeping and fishing. And in this, I'm the fisherman, fisherwoman, fisherperson, whatever, and the fish. Sleeping is like fishing for myself. The old customary shoe will come along. Mermaids I didn't see myself, I. A shark scare, then knee-jerk, stutter, piercing vision. I let the airline flow, give myself some slack for a slow graze in the deep, drooling all over the pin, bloodshot, then reel it in. The last poem is one I wrote last year, 2021. I was in Kashi and somebody wanted a long poem for a Dante anthology, and of course I mixed it all up. It follows the journey of a body to a speck of ash on a beach, and of course for me paradise is a beach. Don't ask who's cooking tonight at Harishchandra and Manikarnika holy confidential kitchens of Kashi. Shroud tears, skin sears, juicy fats oblation. Did marrow fizz, fire, laugh? In 3 hours and a half, this human log collectible in a dustpan. For the first time, I think to count your eyelashes, to pluck them before they're singed. Of each, I'll make a boat unmoored. Where in the worlds are you? As if I poured a sky of wax on you. Everywhere you are not, your exact absence. In Uttarkashi, where sun dives and pirouettes and fish roll their eyes, dodging tangled light doodles, we cup our hands and drink Ma Ganga, infused with arias of swans and undertones of glaciers. Sweetness rises. Air floats sinless. In Kashi, where shadows hover anxious like dogs marking corners of terraced ghats, as lovers drink mirrors, a curly suit rains upon the free bereft, and pundits claim ashes still warm from midnight pyres for altar coffers at dawn. Hey Vishwanath of Kashi, O Mount Alchemy, here I am, weightless. Now take me home. So long as mountains meditate, this river will be wet. So long as boatmen paddle, a lullaby for the dead. Before sun strikes and water turns cold, we row to a spot churning upstream, hand your ashes over to the current. Ash can't swim, hangs on to algae on hulls, falls into arms of corals, scraped and bitten by fish, shat along gorges and flats. Why else do river beaches shine? What is mica made of? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mariam. I'm a law student. This poem is called Unattractive. When you take my glasses off and notice how my eyes cross, I'll not tell you about hypermetropia, where due to long-sightedness, my eyes can't focus, and to avoid a double vision, my eyes cross. I won't tell you it can be treated. Instead, I'll tell you my eyes are multitasking. One eye looking back at you and another that has been searching for home for far too long. When you laugh at my bulgy nose, I'll tell you how it's one of the very few things I inherited from my father. His pride made his nose bulgy, whereas I drew sharp breaths every time a blow was thrown at me, every time I could hear the sound of belt meeting skin, every time I inhaled the smoke that came from cigarettes, every time I saw that mattress smudged with blood. I'll tell you, maybe that's why my nose is bulgy, because it refuses to let go of sobs I suppressed anywhere but within words. When you lean in to kiss me and you don't find red, full lips, rather thin and discolored ones, I'll quote Milnes to you. These lips are as thin as a brief, forgotten dream, when they were first kissed by a dementor who sucked the marrow from my lips and drained it of color, lips that hadn't even learned how to paint wild fantasies. When your tongue runs through the gap in my front teeth, I will not tell you how they call it dystema, rather how I call it the Great Escape, where my words trapped behind this cage made of 28 bars created cracks in between and lashed out, which on some days made me a casualty in my home. When your lips kiss the hollow in my cheeks and a jaw that is more bone than flesh, I'll tell you that I've bit the insides of my cheeks, swallowing words that still lay undigested at the pit of my stomach. Maybe that's why there are days I binge eat and there are days I don't eat at all. When you whisper something in the middle of the night and I cannot hear it, I will not tell you how I am deaf, but rather I'll tell you about 26 continuous slaps that still ring in my ears some night. I'll tell you about how the insides of my right ear bled when my father put a matchstick in it because I wasn't paying attention when he was talking. When your fingers do not find long, dense hair, rather gets tangled in my short curls, I'll tell you how my hair refuses to grow. Maybe because it cannot bear the thought of being pulled and banged in the walls anymore. When you touch me and you don't find a bosom too big for your palms, I'll not tell you how natural my breasts are. I'll tell you about a 13-year-old chest that has bored punches as hard as my father's heart, and I'll tell you that maybe this chest is flat now, but it has always refused to be knocked down. When you see the scars on my knees, I'll tell you how my knees fell in prayer to God every day asking, Ya Rab Madad, and no help came until I stopped asking. When you don't find smooth, moisturized legs wrapped around your waist, rather hairy ones that tickle your back, and you laugh at my femininity, I'll tell you that I have hair because after I discovered I was a woman, I pretended to be a man. Because they could get away with anything, but my body couldn't produce enough testosterone to keep up with this demand, so I'm left with this as a reminder that a woman cannot even get away with unshaven legs. When you feel me at parts that I've been told carry my dignity, I will wince in pain, and I'll tell you how my dignity was snatched away from me. I'm trying to grow it back every day, trying to find my worth in poems and book, trying to find what more can dignify me apart from my sexuality. And when I get comfortable and I overstep your boundaries and you push me away, I'll tell you I'm sorry, I wasn't invading, I'm nothing but a refugee and I mistook you as an asylum. When you tell me every conversation with me now just feels like a hunt for a poem inside you, I will wonder if you notice that I've always been a scared kid who hides behind amateur metaphors that have shielded and comforted me like a mother that I wish I had. So when I run out of stories to keep you engaged and you call my plot twists loopholes, you'll see me as someone who neither has mystery or a gorgeous body, just someone with words you've heard before too many times, and you will leave. You'll tell me you loved me, but I was too much. You'll call me beautiful out of pity, but discard me away as unattractive, unpleasant to look at. In that moment, I will know that you have only been looking, not loving. Thank you. Okay. This poem is called The Future of My Ummah. Ummah means community in Arabic. Tell me, how long before they pass a law that says it's okay to kill Muslims? How long before masjids start collecting dust because the court cannot decide what's the religion of the land? How long before they drag us out of our homes because our neighbors feel scared? How long before schools and colleges turn us away because educating us would be a threat to this nation? How long before the hospitals can proudly say they don't take doctors and patients, they pray for help to a god with a different name? How long before hijabs are snatched and heads with beards are cut off in the street and nobody blinks? How long before we hide the names we were given by our mothers so we can get a job? How long before being a Muslim becomes a crime nobody wants to be charged with? Someday they'll erase the word secular from our constitution as if it never existed. And they'll come for me and my community in numbers. They will say we deserved the cruelty. If by that time I am not a coward who mislabeled my faith, I will be taken. I just want you to remember I sounded crazy the day I wrote this, but I was right. So remember this poem, keep it in your heart, and the day mine doesn't beat anymore, know I was right. And if I'm not right, know that I will be grateful I was wrong. Thank you.
I'm Joshua, and I'll be reading 4 poems of 12 from all his moving parts. Mouth. Imagine we could go back to the time when to truly know something, we had to put it in our mouths. Your mouth is like late February. It is a cherry, sweet on first nip, and then only gets sweeter till drifting is inevitable. Your mouth is sometimes December, bitter winter, the kind of winter that East European men will declare mild while you are shivering. Your mouth is sometimes uninviting, unlike these men who are willing to taste everything once. My sweat, charms, lots of hash from Morocco, the hot chili sauce from Walk and Go, and beer in every form. Imagine we could go back. The warning that everything on the red coat aisle is inedible and tasteless holds true for everything that is not exported or holidaying. Though I realize I'd come back home on tasting my grandmother's ground chili chutney, the mouth is the library. I know my first lover. He tasted of synthol behind the ears, and like Axe body spray near his armpits and pubes. My grandmother's chutneys are always generous on chili, my grandfather's food on garlic. My best friend puts generous amounts of tomato in all his food. My flatmate likes lime, but all this you already know. Your mouth, on the other hand, isn't so excited by spice, not interested in the juicy, the overwhelming, the fleshy, the violent. So much these orifices register. So much your orifices register. So much my orifices register. Stomach. Love makes demands of the heart. Love, the 90s hip-hop kind. Love, the going steady kind. Love that might give you the good and plenty. Love, the kind that Lauryn Hill says does the voodoo you do. Love, this kind, makes demands of the stomach. You must be able to bear the stench, stink, and stillness of being together. You must come to learn to savor, swallow, and settle the unsaid. You must learn to bear weight. Mary said, it ain't all roses, flowers, and poses. You said, don't look at my big stomach. I never listened. You said it to stop me from staring at your shame. I never thought it was. Can you stomach the truth? The truth? You've left a gaping hole in the pit of my stomach. You think that I like the others? I'd like one flat like a dining table, washboard abs, buff, ripped, and cut. You can have one for you, but I'd be happy with a belly, even as long as it comes with you. Spending summer holidays in the hills makes me want to reach for things, even if it is happiness. Sometimes I place my palms on the surface and I'm reminded of your depths. No, it isn't a lump. It doesn't just sit there like a bag of potatoes. It isn't a sack or sad. It's resplendent, glorious, and ours, yours and mine. It pronounces that we are alive. Sometimes I place my lips on your stomach, plant a kiss, and pray that it grows. Maybe I'll be around to see if it's a tree or a flower. You radiate comfort from your core. Your stomach invites me to lay down my head, to call it home. There have been many stomachs in the past. The giant and the hairy ones make the best pillows. The ones who never let you put your head down will always keep you on your toes. There'll be no resting with them, much ache. You know, as children, on learning to walk, we always try to run back into our mothers and try to fit ourselves back into her belly, through her navel, to return. We try to get in from under their saris, salwars, and shirts. We are sure the world would disappoint. I remember your stomach, generously dusted with hair, proud. I remember your stomach, meager, muscular. I remember your stomach, surplus, sturdy, and steadfast, like a testament to us. But I love that you sleep like an overturned boat on your belly. This love is hued with wickedness. Let me be honest, not always the best policy, but here it is. My eyes gaze, graze, and glaze over your upturned butt. It's simply divine, decadent, and delectable, your butt. Even on the coldest of winter nights, I'm reminded of summer, of foliage, of fruit. In my mind, my hands are ceaselessly grabbing, grasping, and gathering the whole of you, though even hovering over it makes me go crazy. The barest whisper on your back bellows into rushes of hair, heaving, harboring my treat, though the whole tray is the dessert. I can pick your butt out in a police lineup. So plump, it bounces back, fighting each bite. It prefers nibbles, and I must comply. So inch by inch, I'm forced to explore. Though I want to capture and conquer swaths of this land, I want to make it mine. But I learn a lesson in control. Your butt will deflect a 5 rupee coin with the grace of Virat Kohli's cover drive. I love your butt. It's the Maximus in my books. The working over of your butt needs a studied tongue, motivated by the perfect cocktail of curiosity, cruelty, and caution, and one that flicks, flits, and flirts with restriction, though I've been militant on occasion. I can't spot a water tanker without thinking of your bubble butt. Being the big spoon is only compensated by the fact that your butt spends all night coaxing out room between my thighs. Sometimes I've got to fake grapple with you to be the big spoon. There, another honest little bit. Even with one lifetime, I'll never have enough of it. How can one night suffice? Be comforted in this. On the night that our world ends and the apocalypse is here and all is rendered into dust, I will eat you, starting with your butt. Each morning, waking up without you is the time I spend recollecting myself. I spend recollecting you, adding clay to your absent body, whistling life into your hollow bones, and excavating memories from my supple skin. These must be ordered, ordained, and then made ordinary. Being with you, I am shattered, shaped, and shattered again. The hazard of falling in love on every night is that you'll hunger for the hurt. You'll be brazen with the bruises. You'll only want to take on those with a stomach for play, for love. Each morning, waking up with you is the time I spend mourning myself. I spend mourning you. There's so many leaks to be plugged, so many spills to be cleaned up. But I want to beat my chest and wail loudly. I've lost you, and nobody cares but me. I've lost you, and even you don't care, I see. Through all the sniveling, the sniffing, the sighing, your departure is digested. Each morning, waking up without you is the time I spend remembering myself. I spend remembering you. Showing love is an exercise in memory. It's bringing out the backlogs. It's never revealing the altar, the archives, the automation. I might never recall your names, see your faces again, but you'll always be ever so important, and I'll always be ever so grateful. You've given me drinking dives, desires, and distance. The distance look far into the world, to know that the one that steals, sidles, and sweats into the mattress in the middle of summer and never ever wants to leave, he'll be the more than sum of all his moving parts.
I'm Prashant, and I have some poems for you. The first poem is called This is a Photograph. This is a photograph of me and my mother. We are repeating an old pose from 25 years ago. My father in his mother's arms. This picture was taken on 6th December 1992. I turned 6 months, was fed as per ritual my first morsel of solid food. Babri Masjid was attacked and razed to ground. My family got dressed and gathered to get photographs clicked. We grinned at the flash of future in different permutations. A young mother and a blank old child looking into the camera of one-eyed history. My dome-like skull looks so smooth, unbroken, and intact. The second poem, Mrs. Sen's Sonnet. When Mrs. Sen caught us hiding from the sun in an empty classroom, touching with cold hands our hot bodies, she spoke in an accent of love and taught us the art of careful maneuver. How to con the noses floating in the air and pretend to like roses when all you want to do is lick long lilies like lollies. She could have taught us truth without slant, or gushed about authenticity like a freshly fallen romantic, or shared the fruit she carried so noiselessly in the folds of her sari, and freed us from the burden of stealing glances at fleshy prospects. She knew better than that. Heart learns lessons of freedom on its own, but bodies in love need poets to teach them how to save their skin in the game. The third poem is called Wonder. When winters are deep and dawns sullen, for a brief hour the Taj Mahal disappears. Wearing an eggshell white with a fistful of fog, love goes looking for labor's chopped fingers. As marble yields to mist, shapes drop their shoulders, exit stage left. In the next act, they hope to die off stage. Scribes escape the plot of graves to write part-time histories by the shoemaker's fire. Soon, the monument will be summoned to pose for the prestige of presence. But for now, over Jamuna's moody waters, two rowing lovers are risking a kiss. Pigeons pause, the sun blushes, and hides a while longer. The next poem is called Library of Tears. All resemblance to current events are highly intentional. Library of Tears. The Library of Olan turned upside down when bombs of tear gas were thrown into its dusty rooms. The intention was to smoke out those who refused to leave their obsession of biting into tombs and licking the pages of ancient erotica, to fill the library with tears and interrupt their exile with words, to dampen the pleasures of marginalia and corrupt the humor of books. It is now a historical fact that the opposite happened. Books were now read with eyes heavy with tears. Words became mistier, sentences danced like waves. Even scientific manuals carried the depth of rivers. When the news went out, people in large numbers began migrating to Olan, queuing up outside the library to experience this altered state of emotion. Inside the library, one could sense at every turn of phrase the entire weight of dialectical philosophy. The most basic comedies were now laced with a tinge of melancholia. Under the influence of artificial tears, sentimental lyrics turned fraudulent. The longing to cry out of will and not force mirrored the tragedy of star-crossed lovers. In a state of deferred catharsis, Aristotle's plot came undone. Readers abandoned causal routes to wander in bylanes of unimportant scenes, to look for characters without arcs. In the middle of the story, when people looked up to exchange glances, they silently compared the moistness of their hearts and measured the intimate distance between their feet. All the signboards were gone, strict instructions suspended. The library kept sinking deeper and deeper into silence. Today, if you visit the library of Olan, you'll find carpets marked with phantom footsteps and bookshelves that didn't rot despite being so damp for so many years. Today, if you turn the pages of any book, you'll find your fingers running over printed words, but also over patterns of fallen tears. Last poem, Body Nation. The country of my body has passed a farman, signed by the head, thumb forced to attest, two eyes as witnesses. I no longer belong here. My ears have no patience for my language. My tongue repeats the same silent songs. Caught between rage and heartbreak, it is unbearably dry. My hands have decided. They will not offer a single drop of water, poison, or prayer. I have now come to know for sure that tongue holds on to the abandoned most dearly, that taste is the last sense you lose. Once, while kissing the earth in prayer, I had erred and stuck my tongue out. Today, I'll do as ordered. Here, I'm giving up the thick taste of soil, my final memory. Here, I'm bidding my body goodbye. Here, I'm kissing it one last time. My lips are so cold that this ample nation, once mine, now yours, catches fire in shock. I'll see from a distance with cold nerves, flesh returning to ashes. Thank you.
My name is KVK Murthy, known as KVK. First poem, A Glance at Marvel. Not disdain, but in quiet knowing, your orbits reached, swept beyond common eyes, beyond the limited lenses of mere stargazers. The firmament was for lesser lights, the vain ones content to sing the lesser senses. For you were one with gods, your distant sights set on divine tongues, a remote, austere speech. Not flourish nor conceit, but a cavalier insouciance marked your passage through worlds, lives, and time, mocked the grave's seclusion, gravely making love to coy mistresses, an ear cocked for wheels and grime, and in jeweled strophes, an eternity glimpsed above the running sun, above the dark empyrean's effulgence. Cleopatra. All else notwithstanding, and it wasn't much by mores of time and place, history finds for her. One can see her juggling brothers, wooing Rome, looking for ominous signs from the less kindly disposed others who viewed Alexandria as a touch. Not easy, too, her bit of cheek on the Tiber, flaunting son complete with sire's name. That needed nerve. From their villas, the wives watched like hawks as she came in triumph to shake an empire's pillars, silk and steel entwined in a fiber. But she was doomed. Fate would intervene with the Ides. and with her patron went whatever Egyptian wind that bore her sails. Actium did the rest. She was spent. She came home to asps, and the tails clung like unguents to embalm a queen. Scipio Africanus, the second. Scipio. The Mediterranean stretched before him. In smouldering, scuttled hulks, the enemy fleet lay dead, once pride and pest of the placid main. The heat troubled him, he felt oppressed, and the land held nothing for him. His eyes roved over the waste. All round, death rose in listless wisps of smoke. Its reek would drape history like a shroud. Turning, he gazed awhile on his salt streak, that runnel of ruin had ploughed to neuter this obstinately fecund ground. Tired, he faced north again and home. His eyes briefly brimmed. No unlettered lout, his mind strayed to distant Troy, and saw in a poet's dirge to a rout no cause for a victor's joy, but a lament for his own beloved Rome. Enigma. No one really got the measure of you, not all your biographers who erred on one side or the other. And the film, predictably one would think, deferred to the image, meant to overwhelm with landscape and legend. And the few slightly wiser lapped it up like the rest. After all, the public pieces were there in splendid scope and true, more or less. And since a hero was intended, only fair the treatment, even the slight excess. The director, in any case, knew best. But there was more to you than fancy dress, or driving flags and crescents to some private acre of your own. That was a sort of crusade in essence anyway, whose seeds were sown in Oxford probably, or your infancy cutting teeth on castles. Still, that came to naught, save as happy windfall for venal masters. In the event, a foregone outcome you couldn't stall. Yet there was more to disillusionment than that drama in a 3-hour frame, beyond the lens's circumscription, or the boards of books. What romance was it that so irrevocably soured? Caught in that brief backward glance but inadequately, what powered your effacement into almost fiction? LHR. Coming in from Amsterdam over the fens, only the houses and the cars keeping left. The river as a grail denied. The descent ends in cloud, anonymous, swept past our windows in our final glide. On taxiways and aprons, the wheeling commerce of flight bears no unique sign. The place could be any one of a dozen such across a continent. The feeling, one of loss. Or the fault was mine, perhaps, ceding so much of a heritance onto mere concrete, paint-marked and precise. A sword of sameness after 9 hours waiting, a lifetime's waiting to greet a mirage. The departures board winks other worlds. No lover's smile, this. Stopping, I add my own to the upturned heads, a brief huddle of the transient, before we find the stairways for the journey down to the subway shuttle, all cobbled memory left behind. Beyond the prim, receding barricades must lie the names, the tangled sum of what one grew to be or thought one did. Past the milling gates, a cafe beckons. I pull a welcome chair, watch a tail fin alight gracefully. As it happens, this is also one of my most recent poems. I think this was written in 2020 or 2021. The poem is called After Rembrandt. Two gazers commune here, the dark air heavy with ages. The hand, lightly resting, seems to salve a sorrow. A despair, perhaps, fixed in that sightless stare. There's no speech, the silence suggesting a shared tenebrity, a moment briefly destined. The burgher richness of the robe, chain and all, is no sleight of ancient Attic indigence. Its wearer's look says as much, wearing pain too, if that is so minded. And then again, that homage to the older presence, discerned but just in that dim luminescence. Yet unbeknownst, albeit, for it's not fate anachronizing here, but another eye, the third, less fettered but imodate. The head lifts, a stiff leg shifts a weight maybe, arm and brush arching high to hint that cap. The last daubs whereby the whole would hang complete. As for what he thought, we do not know. Another among many such, probably. Outside, the trot of hooves and cobble would have brought home the quotidian. And we reprise the long known, the old masters that were never wrong. Thank you.
I'm Meena Kandaswamy, and I will read you one love poem and some political poems. We're time to hold us prisoners. Why grudge the time you spend with me, love? In another birth, we will be born even more apart. We won't know the shape of the other's face, the color of the other's skin, the words for love in the other's tongue, and what it will mean to spend a night in each other's arms. Then, only this constant absence of a love we knew very long ago, a love we can no longer reach to touch, a love that will make us weep on full moon nights. Other loves may take space, even take away this unnamed pain that skins our hearts, but only we will know, with the sureness of old souls, why we long for that part of us which went missing. Then we cannot make claims. I cannot turn up at your door and ask for a kiss. I cannot even ask for a fight. Love me now. The torments of being torn apart can haunt us another day. Tomorrow someone will arrest you. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you and will say the evidence is there was some problematic book in your house. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you and your friends will see on TV the media calling you terrorist because the police do. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. They will scare all the lawyers. The one who takes up your case will be arrested next week. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your friends will find you active on Facebook a day later. The police logged in as you. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your friends will find that it takes 4 days to find 1,000 people to sign a petition. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your little child will learn what UAPH stands for. Your friends will learn of Section 13. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. You will be a leftist to the people. You will be an ultra-leftist to the leftists. No one will speak. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The day after that, you will be considered a terrorist for life. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The police will prepare a list of names. Anyone who would protest will be named. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. You will be warned. You will be a warning to those fighting corporate loot and police state. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your home will be searched tonight. You will be taken for questioning now. Stop speaking. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. The court, in a rare gesture, will give you the benefit of bail. The police will rearrest you in another case. This will go on and on. Tomorrow, someone will arrest your children. You will be underground. The police will tell your old mother to consume poison and feed it to the kids. Tomorrow, someone will arrest you. Your partner, your children, your children's children. Some measures are essential to keep a democracy alive. Long live silence. This is a poem called This Poem Will Provoke You. This poem will provoke you. This poem is not a Hindu. This poem is eager to offend. This poem is shallow and distorted. This poem is a non-serious representation of Hinduism. This poem is a haphazard presentation. This poem is riddled. This poem is hearsay. This poem is a factual inaccuracy. This poem has missionary zeal. This poem has a hidden agenda. This poem denigrates Hindus. This poem shows them in poor light. This poem concentrates on the negative aspects of Hinduism. This poem concentrates on the evil practices of Hinduism. This poem flames with the fires of a woman hungry of sex. This poem supplies sexual connotations. This poem puts the phallus back into the picture. This poem makes the Shiva Lingam the male sexual organ. This poem does not make the above mentioned organ erect. This poem prides itself in its perverse mindset. This poem shows malice to Hinduism for untouchability and misogyny. This poem declares the absence of a Hindu canon. This poem declares itself the Hindu canon. This poem follows the monkey. This poem worships the horse. This poem supersedes the Vedas and the supreme scriptures. This poem does not culture the jungle. This poem jungles the culture. This poem storms into temples with tanks. This poem stands corrected. The RSS is BJP's mother. This poem is not vulnerable. This poem is section 153A proof. This poem is also idiot proof. This poem quotes Dr. Ambedkar. This poem considers Ramayana a heteronormative novel. This poem breaches section 295A of the Indian Penal Code. This poem is pure and total blasphemy. This poem is a voyeur. This poem is a witness to the rape of Shurpanaka. This poem smears Rama for a suspicious mind. This poem was once forced into sati. This poem is now taking her revenge. This poem is addicted to eating beef. This poem knows the caste of all the 33 million Hindu gods. This poem got court summons for switching the caste of gods. This poem is horizontally flipped. This poem is a plagiarized version. This poem is selectively chosen. This poem is running paternity tests on Hindutva. This poem saw Godse of the RSS kill Gandhi. This poem is not afraid of being imprisoned. This poem does not comply to client demands. This poem is pornographic. This poem will not tender an unconditional apology. This poem will not be penguined. This poem will not be pulped. Rape Nation. In Hathras, cops barricade a raped woman's home, hijack her corpse, set it afire on a murderous night, deaf to her mother's howling pain. In a land where Dalits cannot rule, they cannot rage or even mourn. This has happened before, this will happen again. What does that fire remember? The screams of satis dragged to their husbands' pyres and brides burnt alive, the wails of caste-crossed lovers put to death, the tongue-chopped shrieking of raped women. This has happened before, this will happen again. Manu said once, so his dickheads repeat today. All women are harlots, all women are base, all women seek is sex, all they shall have is rape. Manu gave men a license plate, such rape mandate. This has happened before, this will happen again. This has happened before, this will happen again. Sanatan, the only law of the land that is in force. Sanatan, where nothing ever will change. Always a victim-blaming slut template. A rapist shielding police state. A caste denying fourth estate. This has happened before, this will happen again. This is my last poem. I'm just going to read one. We are not the citizens. நாமார்க்கும் குடியெல்லோம் நமனையஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலையில்லோம். We are not the subjects of anyone. We do not fear the god of death. We shall not suffer were we to end in hell. We have no deception. We have no illusions. நாமார்க்கும் குடியெல்லோம் நமனையஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலையில்லோம். Nobody's citizens and nobody's slaves, fearless of lynchings and beheadings, unscathed by the torrent of hell fires. We do not tremble at certain death. நாமார்க்கும் குடியெல்லோம் நமனையஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலையில்லோம். As people, we refuse to be ruled. As people, we refuse to die. As people, we refuse to suffer. As people, we refuse to be deceived. நாமார்க்கும் குடியெல்லோம் நமனையஞ்சோம் நரகத்தில் இடர்படோம் நடலையில்லோம்.
I completed my master's thesis on Indian women poets writing in English, and one of them was Meena Gandasamy, who just read. So huge shoes to fill, which I will not be even attempting to do. But, right, I have a couple of poems, and I'll be out of your hair soon, I promise. Salt. Mother thunders into the kitchen, a banished witch reclaiming her place amidst the arcane, and tips half a jar of salt into the rice, like she tipped over the wardrobe earlier, her rage untrammeled by graples or Godrej steel. Choral uppilla, she chants, her abrupt fury terrifying my cousin, whose perfectly cooked rice has now been salted beyond salvation. It is only years later I understand the ire, the ignominy of undersalted rice. Second by bland second, hour by insipid hour, I stew in my gruel of accumulated griefs, its thick, viscous numbness eating away at my stomach. The tears are long gone. I seek refuge by the sea, yearning for feeling, flavor, salt. I could lick it clean off the air at Marina, or maybe just walk into the waves, the weight of unwritten poems lining my pockets. But then, I'd nest in the sand and never leave, my snail shell fort resolute against the unhurried assault of brine. For now, my tongue must weather days that taste of nothing, as it hankers for the wispy burst of joy from a salted caramel ice cream. Sulaimani Sonnet. Amused, you watch me sing praise of tea, laced with lemon, mired in sugar, crowned with a sprig of mint. I marvel at its tang, how its balm trickles into stricken throats. It's hard to get Sulaimani wrong, you claim. All too prone to error, my hands dimmer. When has it taken much for things to sour? A slip, a spill. Light sharpens, its bite stings. And yet, a lifetime steeped in this world, its citrine certainties, doesn't prepare me for the suddenness of you. The deftness of your hands straining the last of the tea leaves me stunned, brewing a slow affection. Its namelessness tastes soft on my tongue. The next one is called Prophecy. Passengers, your kind attention, please, I intone, matching the announcer, her placid voice marching out of tin cans, drumming into our ears. Mine goes just far enough to needle my father, master of that brand of cruelty that adults wield, the kind they dole out without malice. Back then, I thought maybe it was the baby yowling on the other side of the waiting room. Maybe it was the vendors chanting chaya, chaya, chaya in an endless, breathless call for tea. Maybe it was my mother's 36th sigh in the span of 3/4 of an hour. In the slow, simmering cacophony, father snaps into two my dream of becoming that woman whose trains of thought were seldom derailed. You know it's recorded, right? He asks, the amused note in his voice, a butcher's knife cleaving my heart, metal through corded muscle. Its edge plies through blood. At the core of it all, the knife finds the putty figure of a put-together lady, hair neatly tucked into a bun, not a single pleat of sari out of place. Disemboweled, her voice warbles an apology that recedes into the distance like the slow chugging of an engine on its way out. Maybe 7-year-olds have the wisdom to wait for the next recording, but at 8, my fears whisper that I'm too early, that the next set of announcements will have no use for tin cans and eardrums. They will steal their way into our brains, details strumming our neurons. The next one is called 6 Names for My Daughter. Ikra. In the beginning was the word, and it was you, Kana. An invitation to read, to delve into belief, to conjure dreams from sparseness. Golden orchard are beyond your mother, but you will always have reams of paper to parse. A story to swim in, fat morsels of fable and myth, and if you wait, a poem, so you can coax silences out of many a noisy box. Someday, Ruhi, you will learn of Pandora and her infernal box. Until then, may these worn touchstones serve you well, Kana. Look past the very last page of every tale. Once it turns, wait for 3 beats. Wonder aloud why after folly, after fever dream, after freeing plague and peril, we held true to hope spirit. Stories ought to be sifted. Let no one deter you, not even your mother. I was told when I have a kid of my own, I'd know. Smothering is always a slip away. I leave a trail of clipped wings, boxes I was ushered into, circles of chalk. Shikha, here is a storied lineage of moms who hem in songbird and flame. But Kanna, mother promise, I won't sing you into tyranny. If you dream into life a wildfire, I'll pray for you to clear new ground. I'll wait and watch you hopscotch across borders. You weren't born to wait. Your feet obey no maps and leap over wire fences, this mother of yours into giggling. You finger paint swatches of dream fabric, refuse to call them flags. Ashima, my pulpit is a soapbox. But you house tomorrow's sermons in your artless body, Kanna. Your paper boats romp through high seas, sun's pomp, sun's story. Braiding smoke and starlight with ease, you take to telling stories as tadpole to swamp water, dapple green. There is no waiting for you anymore. Words windswept, curls unkempt. Kanna, my mole-kissing tail-spinning Zia, how is it that you mother metaphor and simile, multiverse cradled in your mouth, unboxing all feeling, outfoxing all my attempts to husby-rubby you into dreams? You send ox-blood talismans from sandcastles yet to be dreamt, warding off homebreakers. Will your name ripple in lore, history? Or will it be a memory they trip over when tinny music boxes sing of it in back alleys? Claws naked, this country once waited and witnessed you coming to roost, the falcon that mothered rage and rebellion. Shaheen, soaring wing, talon, beak, my Kanna. But listen, wait. I have yearned for you since the day my mother locked up all my storybooks. I will be a better mom than you, no kikya. But Kanna, you're a dream. I float down river in a box. The next one is called An Education in Fortune Telling. Glimpsed, a lone miner minding its business, hopping about on a moss-eaten wall, its chirp and trill blending into the morning din. A yelp later, their ribbon pigtails aflutter, a gaggle of girls crane their necks, desperate to spot its companion. Kando vere? One of them tells me I've knotted my tie wrong, and that citing a pair of minors, words of the horror spelt by one. A B minus, being yelled at in class, losing a 2 rupee bet. Enlightened, my eyes cast a net, turn up empty. We tiptoe through our day, emerge with a split lip, a skinned knee, a sunken heart, a spurned bottle of drill ink bleeding itself dry over 5 notebooks and a napkin. A decade later, I favor wandering by myself. Yet, every time my eyes snag on a minor, they dart round, even offer a prayer to a disbelieving God. Sonnet for my 20-year-old self, written at 24, with apologies to Farida Khanum. Stay. Do not insist on leaving today. That note can wait. Pill or well or rope is not a game you play at midnight with only your shadow holding you up, the ghost of a slash sleeping on your wrist. Stay. Sit by my side. Listen when I say that note is not your swan song, even though you know by heart its swing and turn. You will write one each year and consecrate all of them with mothball and peacock feather. I wrote mine a month ago in ink so startlingly purple, I willed to live. Here's the thing you won't believe now. Your mother learns to bake. Vanilla hangs in the air, thin as a strand of hope. Stay, take a whiff. And the last poem for the day. Diagnosis. Mouth pursed, brow furrowed. My physician examines this machinery of flesh, laid bare and grey, clunky, rattling, clogged with phlegm. I'm grateful there isn't much hemming or hawing. The sparse verdict? Dense with aspiration, my lungs now play host to pollen, spore, smoke, alchemizing blood to leaden bone. I have breathed too much. I have inhaled motes of dust from dreams I was not ever meant to conjure, inflaming bronchiole, pleura, alveoli. I remembered words that start fires, spelled them, raised prisons to ash, ember, cinder, kindling. I listened to the wheeze of cold air in my ear canals, traced its rasping trail of stories to far lands across the Black Sea. I am riveted enough for this choreography of tubes and pipes and pistons and hinges to collapse under its perfection, quavering. My lungs choking with aspiration? There is so much more that I'm yet to want. Far in the future, I hope my chest is exhumed, unearthing a forest of roots, dew-drenched, tendrils clotted with a fresh quiver of breath. Thank you.
I get the feeling that the theme tonight is love and politics. So I'm going to stick to that. And also, special thanks to the poets tonight. Hoshang Merchant, Mani Rao, Joshua Muiwa, Prashant Parvatneni, KVK Murthy, Zainab Umar Farooq, Meena Kandasamy, Mariam Saigo, I thought I mentioned these. I'm going to start with a ghazal called February 2020. The climate's in crisis. To breathe is to ache in India. Too cold or too hot, we freeze and bake in India. They police our thoughts, our posts, our clothes, our food. The news and the government is fake in India. Beat the students bloody, then file a case against them. Criminals in power know the laws to break in India. Pick up the innocent and lynch them on a whim. Minorities will be taught how to partake in India. Hum dekenge, the poet Fez once said, but if you say it, you're anti-national. You have no stake in India. Women and students and poets, they are the enemy. Come here, dear. We'll show you how to shake in India. The economy's bust, jobs are few, the poor are poorer. Question is, how much more can we take in India? When you say your prayers, make sure you pick the right God. Petitions to the wrong one you must forsake in India. Jeet, if you don't like it here, Pakistan isn't far away. If you want to stay, shut up. Learn to make in India. Responding to that announcement poem from Zainab, this is a very short poem. It's a kind of a joke. Flight announcement at 30,000 feet over no body of water. In the unlikely event of a water landing, your life jacket may be used for flirtation. Always a good idea. This is a poem that refers, I guess, to the past few years that we've all been through. And I guess there are references as well to this nation, the wounded nation that we are now living in. Donald Trump makes a very unexplained and unexpected appearance in this poem. My apologies. Speak amnesia. I can't remember why my line breaks this way. In November, I cracked the day to see what might fall out. A congealed yellow sky. Mistake became, in December, I saw trees in flame, a bat with a double snout. The president likes pain. He's a big guy with a small, strange mushroom for a penis and a brain. The colors change. Everywhere is the same. I can't remember when I grew these fins. Was it now or then? Did we sink or swim? Hi, honey. What's your name? This is a kind of anthem. A nation you thought you knew. From Ashoka to Buddha to Gandhi to Nehru, in a single decade unravels into Muslim, Christian, Hindu, unholy trinity of saffron green and blue on a field of British white. My girlfriend's Chinese, my baby mama's a Jew, my husband's red, white, and blue. When we're out on the toot in Chikmagalur, Dew, or in Kathmandu, there's no jealousy or rue. We try to eat right. We like our new brew. We float past our differences and accrue credit for the next bardo, our karmic due. Either way, it's true. We're dead if we don't, and dead if we do. Got a light? Thank you. This is The Ghost of Mr. Great Soul. Why, if it isn't Gandhi, returned as a house gecko, talkative, still slender, motionless on the wainscoting, his chirp is plummy British banter. Dear boy, have a deco. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, or so you'll find. Mind, one hopes not. And so on and so forth. All I say to him is, what? I don't mean to be rude, but you left us no food. The carving knife you used, like some tiny god, still drips blood on the old floorboard. My extended, hopeless family sat down for dinner in India and got up in Pakistan. You turned our house into a granary the army used for bribes to win over the strongest tribes. 75 is 70 years, give or take 5 years. You expect things to change, but what has? Well, we pray to screens, and they're still at it, your assassins, in the name of love and fame. A people divided by circumcision or not, veils or not, meat or not. You expect things to change the same. Mr. Gecko, Mr. Forget-Me-Not, Mr. Great Soul, you're here and you're not. And I'm going to end with a poem about my aunt, Sarah Kailath, for whom this auditorium is named. She was an admirer of the arts in all its forms, and she loved literature and poetry. And this poem it's a rhymed syllabic poem. It's in 4 stanzas of 5 lines each. There are actually 3 10-syllable lines that have been broken up into 5 lines. Sorry to bore you with this, but mathematicians in the audience, if there are any, might find it interesting. So the syllables in each line is 7-3, which makes 10, 5-5, which makes 10, and it ends with a line of 10 syllables. And the rhyme is A, B, B, A, C, and C, D, D, C, E, E, F, F, E, G, G, H, H, G, G. But if you notice the scaffolding and this very strict scheme, I have failed. This is called the Annotated Gita. My aunt died in 2008, and I guess this is a poem about illness and how to cope with it. The Annotated Gita. Everything that lives will live forever, will live whatever the odds they receive in rooms that resemble no rooms we know. What if this time the small show were to pass, and if the sickness take off its pale blue mask and apron, what then would we recall of pain? It comes to us all. Everything that happened already several times before, will happen in the future. That's unchanged. And now you're here, you may as well try the windows and figure out where they are, the rails of light you've seen out there. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you for staying on for the full conversation. If you liked what you heard, please share it with family and friends. You can also leave us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. The crew that makes these podcasts possible are Gaurav Krishna and Ishan Gupta on sound supervision and production, with support from S. Sarvanaraj and Raghavendra Tenkaila. Artwork and design is by Chandani Venkataraman of Crisscross Design Studios. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast platform. It can also be accessed on our website, bangaloreinternationalcentre.org. Do follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to get regular updates on our programming. This is Lekha Naidu signing off on behalf of everyone at BIC.